I'm convinced every empire ever came with a warranty that expired the moment someone said, "We shall last forever." It's the same energy as buying a brand new phone and hearing a tiny pop as the charger dies in the box. People talk about the Roman Empire like it was unstoppable. Sure, it lasted 1,000 years, but honestly, my phone charger gives up after 6 months, and I still treat it with more respect than half their emperors treated the budget. Empires always have that proud moment where they puff out their chest and declare immortality. Then the map dissolves faster than wet tissue in a thunderstorm. You can almost hear it whimpering. I get it, though. I once declared my houseplant unkillable. I watered it twice, maybe. It died so quickly, it probably filed its own complaint. That's exactly the Empire vibe. Absolute confidence followed immediately by historical oopsies. And that's where the fun starts, because every collapsing empire seems to begin with the same starter pack: some confidence, some ambition, and a gentle breeze of denial. Here's the thing no one admits. Every empire begins the same way someone starts a gym membership: loud, passionate, and wildly overestimating their future self. You can basically sort empire origins into a tier list. At the top, you have the sincere revolution, full of speeches, ideals, and at least one guy who owns too many flags. Then there's the accidental takeover, where someone blinks, misplaces a treaty, and suddenly rules half a continent. And of course, charismatic guy who should not have been given that many horses. That one shows up a lot. Take Alexander the Great. Historians treat him like a legend, but he was really just that kid in group projects who says, "Don't worry, I got this," and then somehow conquers Persia while forgetting to turn in the actual assignment. And here's my favorite mock statistic. 87% of empires begin by announcing they're the dawn of a new age. Fresh start, bold vision, sparkling future, and 100% eventually apologize by collapsing. Quietly, usually off-screen. But the moment they succeed, the moment things actually start going well, that's when the real problems sneak in. Like success was just the tutorial for the collapse that's already loading. Success is the part nobody warns you about. Everyone worries about enemies, famine, curses. Nobody ever suspects the real threat is winning too hard and too fast, like an empire speedrunning its own downfall. Look at Rome. They treated their borders the way I treat social plans. Said yes to everything, fully intending to follow through, and then absolutely did not. One day you're agreeing to control Gaul, the next you're hiding in your room pretending you didn't see the calendar notification. Meanwhile, the British Empire spent centuries collecting colonies the way people hoard broken treadmills. "I might use this someday," they said, while stepping around another one they never assembled. If you try to chart it out with fake math, it actually makes emotional sense. For every mile an empire expands, administrative competence drops by about 12%, but tax paperwork spikes by 400%. Somewhere out there, an ancient accountant is still screaming. Success stretches everything thin: infrastructure, leadership, patience. And the truly funny part is that none of this looks dramatic from the inside. It just feels like normal life, but with more meetings, which is exactly how empires drift into the next stage: the swamp of bureaucracy, where ambition goes to take a very long nap. Here's a fun image. Me, on hold with customer service, listening to a flute solo looping endlessly. At some point, I realized I wasn't waiting for a representative. I was reliving the Ming Dynasty's tax structure. Same confusion, same despair, slightly better music. Every empire eventually sinks into this swamp of paperwork and committees. Officials start inventing new taxes no one understands. You'll hear something like, "This is the grain tax for the grain inspectors who inspect the grain inspectors." At that point, you don't even pay it. You just nod, hand over something that looks grain adjacent, and hope no one asks questions. And whenever an empire tries to reform the system, nothing changes. They just redesign the uniforms. Congratulations, everyone. The empire is still collapsing, but now we have capes. The real tragedy is how boring all this is. Corruption doesn't start with a dramatic betrayal. It starts with someone misfiling a form and never fixing it. Multiply that by 10,000, and suddenly half the empire is lost in a queue. Eventually, people get tired. Not rebellious at first, just exhausted. And that's when collapse starts sounding almost relaxing compared to filling out Form 17B. You can only push people so far before they start looking at the empire the way you look at an app after the 10th unwanted update, with pure, exhausted betrayal. Empires always assume their citizens will just accept whatever nonsense they roll out. New rules, new taxes, new mandatory tunic colors. It's the historical version of a video game developer sneaking in microtransactions and hoping no one notices. Spoiler, everyone notices. Revolts are basically customer feedback, but louder. Less, I'd like to speak to the manager. More, the manager has fled the capital. Take the French Revolution. It wasn't one dramatic moment. It was just the loading bar of public patience hitting 99% and freezing there for years until someone finally slammed the keyboard and the whole system crashed. And once the people are fed up, once the empire's internal update log is nothing but error messages, all the neighbors start peeking over the fence. They see the porch light go out and think, ah, opportunity. Picture your porch light burning out one night. Before you can replace the bulb, your neighbors are on your lawn, casually wondering if the house is for sale. That's basically how most invasions start. Once an empire wobbles, everyone nearby suddenly becomes very interested in regional stability, which is code for, so you using that territory? The invaders aren't evil masterminds. They're more like opportunistic raccoons who notice your trash can is open and decide fate has spoken. The Sea Peoples are my favorite example. No one really knows who they were. Their entire vibe is just a group chat deciding, let's roll up and see what happens. And what happened was, everything fell apart. Classic group chat energy. Meanwhile, the Empire keeps assuming all it needs to do is look intimidating, as if glaring at a raccoon has ever stopped it from getting into the garbage. Spoiler, raccoons live for that challenge. By this point, the Empire is already dealing with protests, bad paperwork, and a to-do list older than its ruling dynasty. External enemies aren't the cause, they're the final push. The point where everything starts slipping quietly out of frame. If empires were going to collapse dramatically, they would at least schedule it. Maybe send out a flyer. Instead, most of them just stop returning calls. People imagine the fall of a great power as this explosive, world-shaking moment. In reality, it's usually 5 straight years where no one shows up to work and nobody notices until something catches fire. Half the time, the palace is empty simply because someone forgot to lock the door and everyone took it as a sign to go home. Historians love debating when the Western Roman Empire actually fell. Was it the sack of Rome? The last emperor abdicating? Personally, I think it was when some poor soul tried to submit a maintenance request and got an out-of-office reply. That's the real point of no return. And remember that empire warranty from the beginning? The one that expired instantly? Turns out it didn't cover water damage, corruption, economic failure, civil war, foreign invasions, or, most importantly, hubris. Basically everything an empire is made of. By the time the collapse is done, there's no dramatic finale, just a quiet uninstall, like the empire decided it was tired and wanted to go lie down somewhere off-map. And the funny thing is, every time it happens, we act surprised. Here's the comforting thought I keep coming back to. Somewhere in the future, a historian is definitely going to make a video called How Every 21st Century Nation Collapsed Eventually, and the comments will still say, first. Humanity doesn't evolve, we just refresh the page. Modern countries love insisting they're the exception, which is exactly what every empire said right before the floorboards gave out. You can almost hear the confidence humming, like a refrigerator that's definitely about to die, but still pretending everything's fine. I actually checked the empire warranty again, just to be sure. Still expired. Still useless. Still doesn't cover any of the stuff you'd think a warranty for global domination might reasonably include. But maybe that's the whole joke. Empires don't really fall. They just quietly uninstall themselves while everyone else is looking at the loading screen, wondering why it's taking so long. And then we start the cycle all over again. As if the ending might finally be different this time. It won't be. But it does make great content.